I grew up in a some ways typical family, intact parents, younger siblings, with a strong social consciousness. The dinner table conversations were typically about making the world a better place. Social issues such as feeding hungry people, expanding goodness and mercy in the world. One of the big concepts that I grew up with was the concept of tikkun olam, which is a Hebrew phrase for repairing the world. What this concept suggests is that humans were created to continue divine work, not to interrupt it and not to be separate from it or removed from it, but in our actual actions on a day-to-day basis to contribute to the healing of the planet. That always spoke to me, as did the expression, to whom much is given, much is expected. I feel like I had an extremely prosperous, fortunate childhood. It wasn't perfect. I left with my own share of human wounds, but it was certainly privileged and generous in a lot of different ways. I have an Ivy League education. I had a loving, intact family, a huge extended family, lots of aunties that once I gave them a hug and a kiss, I could go open the refrigerator and see what there was to nibble on in there. So a very sweet upbringing and a privileged life. That expression calls to me because I realize I have had a lot poured into me, not just in my childhood, but in the resources I've been able to avail myself of. Landmark education, Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts, Sage University, neurolinguistic programming, so much access that has made me aware of myself in relation to others, and really given me an advantage in the world is that I know it's not all about me. I'm not in survival. I'm in thrival, and I know that it takes other people to really be happy, connected, and creative. I follow in a legacy of people that have operated on a worldwide basis, supporting institutions that promote humanity and healing in other countries as well as locally. What called me out in my formative years was that I was raised in the era of feminism, and I was really confused by that. Like, I used to go on a date with a guy when it happened from time to time, and I thought I should pay. Like, I didn't really understand the notion of being equal. I thought it meant being the same. And over the years, it was pointed out to me when I was in my 30s that I was kind of a tough cookie, or that I looked mad and butch. I knew that when I was getting those reflections back, that wasn't who I was at the heart level. I just didn't know how to access that heart level. And obviously that's been a journey of my life. That hasn't been something that I just looked in the mirror and thought, oh, you look like an angry, mad, tough woman. I didn't see that in myself. I took the reflection from others and I went to work on it. What I've come to see is that while we're extremely privileged as women in this time of our lives and in this time of history, we have been systematically stripped of that which elevates us as the feminine, because we've been educated alongside guys. We've been competing alongside guys, both in the academic and the business realm. And so in order to flex and achieve, we've adopted a lot of the same qualities as the masculine. We know how to fight, we know how to argue, we know how to debate and compete. But that hasn't led me as a woman to a happier life. And so I started looking, like, what would lead me to a happier life? What would make my heart sing? What would give me freedom to stop being so serious and academic, like it seemed like the Ivy League world wanted me to be, and just to be myself, to be humorous, the class clown. Occasionally, I was the one that got kicked out of class by a teacher who thought that order was more important than humor. I mean, who am I to tell her that her priorities were askew? I'm basically a funny, connected person, but the education was always steering me in the direction of being a serious and significant person. Only what I've found is that while I have something to say, how I make people feel is way more important than what comes out of my mouth. So where I took my work, thanks to an amazing mentor, I took my work into the realm of educating women. First, because I feel more at home around women. They bring out the feminine in me, and I feel safe to be open and nurturing with them. And also because I really saw that all of our education had improved a lot of our quality of life, but it hadn't improved our quality of connection or nurturing. One of my favorite heroes is Albert Einstein. The quote, "You can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it." And to me, that seems like the obvious launch pad for developing feminine leadership, because we have a really amazing world. All the technology that's contributed to our quality of life and our efficiency and our ability to communicate across the miles hasn't necessarily sent us to bed at night knowing that we're loved, or having us wake up in the morning feeling connected with our mission and our heart and the team moving forward to carry it out. So I see that the world we've been living in has gotten us faster and farther, but it hasn't gotten us deeper and more loving. My mission is to create an education and join with the others that are already doing this. This is not my mission alone. There's many people tinkering with how to create more loving human beings, how to create humans that know that they're the source of love, or that they're connected to the divine as their source of love, that they're sowing the seeds of this. So we're part of a movement to elevate what I call the feminine, or the touchy-feely, or the magic, or the sex magic. There's so many different ways to describe what pole of awareness the feminine holds. I mean, we raise the children. When we raise the children, we're looking to build better people, not just faster and more efficient people, but more loving people that can raise healthy families themselves and be a contribution out into the world. That's my vision of bringing women back to our nurturing selves by being in sisterhood, steeping deeply as a tea bag would at a kitchen table among friends, steeping deeply in the feminine, steeping deeply in the qualities of listening, supporting, laughing, crying, emoting, sharing, being playful, dressing up, the things that make women so attractive, not only to men, but also to other women, and creating containers where women can fully express those qualities in themselves. Many years ago, when I lived on Long Island, I led a class in an art gallery in Manhasset. And we would meet once a week for a quarter. The next week, the women would come back and they would say, "My husband asked me, could I go to this class 2 nights a week? Because when I come home, I'm so much more friendly and loving towards him. So can you lead this class twice a week?" That's really the result, that staying in an honest and loving space, a playful space with other women, cultivates the channels and the awareness and the depth in us to bring it out to the people that we touch, the people that we love, the institutions we interface with. It helps us to sow the seeds of love wherever we are, because we're getting nurtured. And nurturing is not a quality that's currently really talked about in society. If you're lucky, you get nurtured at home. If you're not, maybe you have a good teacher who really cares about you and wants to guide you. But as the guides for raising children, and as the majority of the educators in the world, we ourselves as women deeply need to be nurtured. There's a twofold path to getting there. that I'm building right now together with Becca and the women that are in the path with us. The first is a free online 7-day retreat. It's called the E.M.B.R.A.C.E retreat. It's about operating in the masculine world as a woman without giving away our feminine gifts, without sacrificing our ability to stay loving, present, playful, even when facing challenging situations like men in the workplace who want to seduce you, men who want to intimidate you. Men have all those communication patterns and they work for them, and that's why they use them, and there's nothing wrong with them. But if women are debilitated by them and we give our power away to those patterns, all we're doing is first undermining ourselves, but second, teaching those guys that those patterns work. And there's actually other tools that work more effectively to bring people into resonance together instead of into a state of fear together. So the E.M.B.R.A.C.E retreat teaches 7 communicadances that neutralize hostility, aggression. They really allow women to take responsibility from the heart, so we don't have to be victims anymore and blame men for doing just what they were taught to do. If they knew better, they'd do better. So whose role is it as educators and nurturers in society? It's ours, ladies. We get to teach the men. They have things to teach us. We have things to teach them about kindness and nurturing. So the E.M.B.R.A.C.E retreat launches on November 1st through 7th. We do it every 8 weeks. You can find it on our website, businessaspleasure.com/retreat. So you can sign up for the free retreat if you're a feminine-bodied individual, or if you love feminine-bodied individuals, you can send your friends. And then the second way that we're sowing the seeds of feminine nurturing and receiving what it is that you really need to blossom in the world is a 12-month program called the Life Worth Living Nurturary. Many of us have been taught to settle for what we think we can get, rather than going for what actually makes our life worth living. So we nurture your dreams, your hopes, your wishes, so that you're not a tree that can't bear fruit. You actually become a tree that's nourished, that produces bountiful fruit year after year, beautiful fruit, and you have plenty to spare even when you're letting others pick of your bounty. This is the way we're sowing the seeds of feminine love in the world, and that's the vision. I also have a vision for a non-intellectual university. I call it the Omniversity, where we learn first how to steward ourselves as body, mind, and spirit, then how to steward others, and how to steward the planet, how to make sure that the planet is healthy so that generations to come will be able to love and prosper from it. If there's questions, please ask, and I'll do my best to field them.
Hi, I have a few questions, Karen.
Hi, John. Please ask.
Thank you. One question I had is, this sounds so lovely, and I'll definitely share it with some female friends of mine. Is it possible that eventually there could be something for men to help us access these feminine parts of ourselves? Because I feel like there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, completely. So the other day, as I was driving to my healer, I realized that this whole omniversity that wants to happen includes other people who teach. So as synchronicity would have it, I walked into my healer's office and she introduced me to a guy that was on the table next to me, and she said to me, he's working with so-and-so, who's a practitioner that I know from my days in New York, who's doing men's work. He met me in the parking lot after my session, and he told me a little about the men's work to access their souls. And I realized that, oh, I'm being introduced to the people that are potential partners in teaching their aspects of healing humanity. So there's people I know now I'm happy to teach. There are people who are teaching. And why I'm telling you the story is because I feel like there's people who are actually already teaching that. They could be great sources for you. And I'm happy to make that introduction. I've known for years that part of my work is to be a clearinghouse, that when I meet healers and practitioners who are teaching substantive work that can heal us, that I like to be the go-between, like the matchmaker, to introduce people to resources that can contribute to them. One of my dearest wishes, John, is to teach with a masculine-bodied person, and we can play back and forth to point, counterpoint the different energies and have people experiencing them so that they have a smorgasbord of which to choose from and to choose the appropriate tool when the time is right. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate it, Karen. It definitely makes me feel excited about the Omni University, if that's what you call it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for asking. Thanks for attending, for holding space for your own healing and for others. I look forward to being with all of y'all in person and in spirit. Thank you so much for joining.